I think the elevator industry is a great industry to work in. It's interesting. It always keeps you busy, and
Sure.
I think that if there's any young guys out there that hear this, and check into it. And I do talk to some of my customers. If they at hotels where they got young guys working and they're interested in the elevators, and I tell them, hey, go to your local,
Sure.
uh, and see if you can sign up. They on occasion have a test you can take and get into there, and it's I enjoy it so much that I try to share it with people.
Hello, and welcome to the Elevator Careers Podcast, sponsored by the Allred Group. I am your host, Matt Allred. In this podcast, we talk to the people whose lives and careers are dedicated to the vertical transportation industry to inform and share lessons learned, building upon the foundation of those who have gone before to inspire the next generation of elevator careers. Today, our guest is Bob Sinram. Bob has been working in the elevator industry for 23 years on his second time around. Bob's first exposure to elevators was from 1980 to 1984 as a weapons elevator technician on an aircraft carrier for the U.S. Navy. After the military, Bob chose to work in industrial maintenance, which he did for 16 years. Eventually, Bob made his way back to the elevator industry and has been here ever since. Bob loves making people happy by keeping their elevators running and finds his work very rewarding. Bob, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Matt. It's good to see you. I appreciate you inviting me in.
Yeah, no, it's good to see you. Obviously, we've talked over the years from time to time, and I definitely wanted to get your perspective. You have a unique perspective as a non-union mechanic, and I just wanted to learn a little bit more about your journey. And first question: how did you get started in the elevator industry in the first place?
My first stint was 80 to 84 in the Navy on an aircraft carrier. I was a weapons elevator technician.
Gotcha. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Was that, it's been a while. Was that wartime? Was it peacetime? Were you seeing a lot of elevator activity, in other words?
Yeah, we did. Well, obviously, the Navy and I guess all branches of service are always practicing all
Sure.
the time. So yeah, sure, elevators were up and down all the time. We weren't in what they considered a war, but we did go between Lebanon and Gaddafi
Okay.
quite a bit. So it was called a conflict.
Gotcha. Yeah, those were definitely some hot spots back then. So, so you 80 to 84 elevator mechanic or technician, I guess, in the Navy. And then what happened when you came home?
I got out and I relocated to the Atlanta area, east of Atlanta, and I went into. I did interview with a couple of elevator companies, and I chose to go into industrial maintenance.
Okay.
So I basically stayed in industrial maintenance for about 16 years, from 84 to 2000.
Gotcha. That's a long time.
Yeah, it was a good job. It paid well.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed the work. I like fixing things, so it was enjoyable to me.
Right. So what led you back to elevator? After those 16 years away.
Industrial maintenance is a very tough job. You got to work a lot of nights. You got to sweat a lot. I mean, it's a tough job. So around 2000, I was working at an injection molding factory, and I just, for some reason, I just thought, well, maybe I'll just send some resumes out for elevators. And I was tired of working nights, tired of working really hard.
Sure.
So, and not that elevators wouldn't be hard to do or as hard to work, but I sent some resumes out in Central Florida and got picked up by an elevator company, and that's when I got back into it. Then in 2000.
Gotcha. So, Bob, once you decided to get back into elevator, what kind of training or apprenticeship? What was required to get you going in the trade?
Well, I would say that, if a young guy starts out, he needs to start out as a helper. He has to be with the mechanic all the
Hmm.
time.
Hmm.
Um, but I was 40 years old and I had been doing maintenance and troubleshooting on machinery for 20 years. So
Right.
when I got picked up by an independent, I rode around with the guy for a week or so, and then they gave me a bunch of parts and gave me a route and said, "Here you go." So that was my indoctrination into
How
the
quick?
elevator.
Yeah. How quick were you able to pick up on, the elevator machinery versus the manufacturing machinery you had been working on?
Um, Fortunately, everything I worked on in the manufacturing industry was a lot more complicated than elevators,
Hmm.
and if you can believe that, there was, for instance, you have an injection molding machine that's got two or three or four pumps, hydraulic pumps,
Sure.
and it's got 20 or 25 valves on it, and they all work in sync. Well, with an elevator, you have one pumping unit, one valve, and one motor.
Right.
So I acclimated to elevators from the industrial maintenance very quick. It was
Cool.
easy to pick up on. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. What kind of license or certification did you need?
Back then in Florida, it's where I was working at in Florida. They required us a CC license, certificate of competency.
Okay.
It was a test that it was an open book test, kind of like if you were going to get your QEI or so it was an open book test. I think it was 60 questions, 3 hours to take it, and
Mhm.
I passed it the first time, fortunately, because I hate testing. Uh, but the certificate of competency was what they required in Florida, and you had to do 8 hours continuing.
Sure.
Uh,
Education.
yeah, so that was what I started out with.
Right. Right. And I'm curious, people talk about working on proprietary equipment because you're out there, you're servicing other people's equipment, right? Because you're not
Sure.
installing anything new. Um, what's that like? I've been told about different tools that you can access, you know.
Yeah, you've got your different tools like the Otis tool.
Mhm.
In my experience, I have gotten through 99% of all problems with any elevator without a special tool. So,
That's
um,
that's amazing. I mean, I've been told by some that if if you have the schematic that you can solve any problem, which I'm not, electrician or mechanic, so that's like, interesting to me that I'm not even sure what that completely means. Just I
yeah,
know it's
yeah,
the map of the circuits or whatever, but is
right.
that true for you that you can pick up
Yeah,
schematic and
yeah, without a doubt. The tool is primarily for software problems. And the tool can be beneficial. Let's say if you go out on a job and you plug the tool in and you're versed with the tool,
Mhm.
it can find your problem for you faster
Okay,
uh, with the fault log in there. And then some of the tools throw out false faults,
sure.
so it can make it worse. Yeah, I've used some of the tools for some of the different elevators, but I tend to stay away from them because they can make things worse. And usually, if you gotta print a schematic and and a little bit of common sense, you can get through 99% of your stuff without that special tool.
That's fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and yeah, I think there's I don't know. I just have a lot of respect for people that can do that kind of work. That's just never been my thing to.
Yeah. Well, I guess I don't know. And people ask me sometimes, how do you know all this? How do you do all this? And I think with my mind, it's not that complicated. it's really pretty simple.
Sure.
But then again, I've been doing it for 40 something years. So, um, and I look sometimes at other people and say, how do you do that? So
Sure.
it's just something you've done, something that comes easy to you.
Cool. Very cool. No, thank you for sharing that. What is it that you love about elevators? You talked about, the nights and some of the, the scheduling things, but what is it that you love about elevators, about the elevator industry?
Um, they're interesting to work on. Um, and being on a route or doing mods, you get to work with a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
When you get on a route, you get your customers who you get friendly with, and you get to make people happy. If the elevator's broke down and you come in there and fix it, then obviously you're going to be a good guy. And
You're the hero, sure.
yeah. And if it's not, you go around and you take care of your elevators and you keep them safe and you keep them functional up to the best that they can be. And I don't know. I like making people happy, and it gives me the opportunity to do that.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, and I'm assuming, industrial maintenance, there may be some people are happy, but it's more about you got to just get production done and I don't know, there's probably
Well,
a different
yeah, that's it. I
audience.
mean, yeah, when machines are running, everything's great. If something breaks and you got to take care of it, it needs to be done right away because a lot of places there's a flow,
Sure.
and if you've got this machine, that machine, that machine, that machine, and they all have to flow together. And if one of them goes down, all of them could shut down. So,
Yeah.
they're losing, thousands of dollars an hour with those machines being down. So it was pretty stressful too.
Yeah. No, I can only imagine. Yeah, you're losing money by the second and just a different industry, different you know, audience. Certainly it happens in the elevator industry too, but it's sounds like you've found a niche that you've liked. How long have you been in elevators the second time around?
20 to 2000, so 23 years this time.
Cool. Cool.
Yep.
And how long did it take before you felt like, hey, I really have my groove here? I mean, certainly you had worked on certain types of elevators, but I'm imagine they're very different from the passenger elevators inside of buildings that you had worked on before.
Yeah, they're completely different. But fortunately, I did spend that many years in industrial maintenance, and from my experience, the working on elevators, working on industrial maintenance is a lot more complicated. Um, so when I switched over from industrial maintenance to elevators were quite a bit easier to work on because they weren't so complicated as some of the machinery that I had worked on in the industry. And so basically, when I started with the elevator company, they put me on a route, and I stepped right in there and picked it up pretty quick.
Cool, cool. Who
Yeah.
were who were some of the mentors or some of the people that impacted your career early on?
Um, I worked with the first person I worked with was an elevator mechanic, Rob Bramsky, and he kind of took me under his wing because I hadn't worked on elevators per se. So he kind of took me under his wing, and he helped me out quite a bit.
Right.
Rob Bramsky, I think he's retired now. Um, Another person that I looked up to also was Bill Miller. He's the one. He's the one that started Oracle Elevator when I was with another elevator
Oh,
company.
okay. Mm-hmm.
They bought that elevator company, and I liked working with Bill Miller. He had a good concept. He had a good idea. Um, so I looked up to him quite a bit. I worked well with him.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I know like you say, you ended up not going, choosing one of the union companies early on, and then when you came back, it sounds like you were in a non-union company. What is it? Do you think that determines your your success where you're at now? I mean, certainly there's training, but I don't know if you can compare the two. I'm just curious for your insights on, working for a non-union company.
I just never even tried to get into the union.
Mm-hmm.
So non-union company, I think the union, from what I've seen and what I've heard, I think the non-union companies tend to navigate towards paying people for what they're worth,
Mm-hmm.
and not how much time in. So, and I like that, because I think everybody should be paid for what they're worth. If you got two guys that have got the same amount of years in, and one of them's a great elevator guy and the other one's not, they shouldn't be paid the same amount of money. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. Have you seen any drawbacks or negatives from working for a non-union company?
No, I mean, I've 23 years in, and I'm still going strong. So I don't see any drawbacks about working for a non-union company. I mean, I guess the union's great, and they take care of the people, and
Sure.
and they have a great retirement, I hear.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as I've seen, I don't have any drawbacks
Yeah.
of working for a non-union company.
Right. And you still get retirement and benefits and some of those things that.
Yeah. You still get the usual stuff. I think the union has a pension, which none of the companies I've worked for have a pension, but they do well with the 401k.
Yeah.
They match, and so I think a non-union company is just as good of a job as a union company.
Cool. Yeah. So what are some lessons you've learned over your career? It's if you're anything like me, I usually like to fall on my face first a few times to kind of figure things out, and then it's like, oh, now I understand why this is that way. Have you had any of those experiences that you've learned along the way?
Oh yeah, sure. Everybody has. I mean, if you have worked on anything, including elevators, and haven't blown some fuses or made mistakes, then anybody that says that they haven't made a mistake is a liar.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. There's been things that I've done over the years that I should have maybe thought a little bit longer on, or paid a little more attention to. Fortunately, I haven't gotten hurt seriously, because the elevators will kill you.
Oh, sure. Very dangerous.
Yeah. Safety is number one. You gotta make sure that everything you do is safe.
Mm-hmm.
And I say probably in my opinion, you need to check once, check twice before you do anything. Check your safety circuit. It's because they will kill you. And so, yeah, there's been mistakes that I made, obviously, but I've gotten through them all.
Yeah. No, I just want to ask that question. I mean, if you were to start it over, start your career over, what would you do different?
I would say I may have stuck with elevators when I got out of the Navy first,
Mm-hmm.
and I would have been that much further along. But I really have no regrets about my career. I mean, everything that I've done, I've enjoyed, and
Right.
And maybe it's because I enjoy fixing things. I really enjoy teaching people and helping younger guys learn. I don't think I would change. I may just have gotten out of the Navy and went right into elevators. But the 16 years that I spent in industrial maintenance really was good for me also. So maybe if I would have started out in '84 with elevators, I might be burned out on by now. So I took like a 16-year hiatus away from elevators and went back into them, and I enjoy that too.
Sure. Well, it sounds like you learned a lot in the process. You learned to
Yeah,
appreciate an entire different industry,
yeah.
and very good. If you were to, give some advice to somebody who's new to the elevator industry, what would you tell them?
Um, Work hard. Um, Try to do the best you can. Stick with it. Always be doing something. There's always something to do. Don't stand around um, twiddling your thumbs. There's always something to do. So if I was to give advice to a younger guy just starting out in any aspect in life, I think just always be doing something. Always keep yourself busy. If someone says there's nothing to do, find something to do.
Yep. Do you get a chance to mentor new employees at all where you're at?
Where I'm at now, I don't work with new employees that often. I don't work with. I have worked with helpers on occasion, and I try to mentor them. Now I have in the past worked with younger guys and mentored them, and but at the present time, no, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't
How,
get the opportunity.
how much collaboration do you get with other mechanics? Do you pretty much do your route and they do their route, or do you come together on, challenging situations and things like that?
No, I have an out route, and so I pretty much just do my route. If I have any, my route is, I live north of Charlotte, so my route is out north, east and west, and the rest of the guys are down closer to Charlotte and down in South Carolina. So I don't talk to too many people at all. And we have a great service manager. Kevin does a great job, and he gets out there and he works in the field a lot. So I think that if the guys need any help, they can always turn to him. He's always going to be there for them. So now sometimes I don't talk to anybody for a week or two.
I was going
Which
to
is
ask you,
good.
does that get lonely, right? Do you ever?
Yeah. Well, I have my customers, see.
True.
I got all my people that depend on me, and you get friendly with them. I've been on this route and with Oracle for 2 years now. And so I've gotten to know the people real well. So, I mean, yeah, you do a lot of driving. I listen to a lot of pods.
I hear you.
So I don't get to communicate with the guys too much. But like I said, it's all good with me.
Good. Very good. No, it's great. It's good to get your perspective and your thoughts. And if you were to give any words of wisdom, share them with our listeners, what would you share?
Well, that's an open-ended question there.
Very
How much
much
time
so.
you got? Yeah, I mean,
Give us some wisdom, Bob.
I don't know. I think that I always try to do the right thing in life. I always try to treat people like I would have people treat me. Um, there's a lot of mean, nasty people out there. I would also give them words of wisdom as to watch who's around you, because some people are out to get you when you're successful.
Yeah.
So you gotta watch them. You've got the egomaniacs, you've got the narcissists, you have the insecure people. Keep them close to you, because the old saying, right? Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Words of wisdom would be to do what I do is I just always try to do the right thing. That's all.
Yeah.
And watch out, because there may be somebody sneaking up on you trying to make you look bad.
Mm-hmm. When you say keep them close, what do you mean by that?
Watch them. Just keep your eye on them. If sometimes when you're successful,
Mhm.
there are other people out there that are not as successful. And instead of trying to make themselves better, they try to make you look bad.
Right.
So by keep them close, what I mean is to just keep your eye on everybody around you and just be careful, because there are people out there that are trying to make you look bad.
Gotcha. No, thank you. Thank you. Anything else you want to share before we wrap up? We're kind of at the end of our time today.
No, I think the elevator industry is a great industry to work in. It's interesting. It always keeps you busy.
Sure.
And I think that if there's any young guys out there that hear this, and check into it. And I do talk to some of my customers, if they hotels where they got young guys working and they're interested in the elevators, and I tell them, hey, go to your local,
Sure.
And see if you can sign up. They on occasion have a test you can take and get into there, and I enjoy it so much that I try to share it with people.
Right.
So I think that, if there's any young guys out there, the elevator industry is starting to ebb for people, and I know there's plenty of work out there.
Right.
And if there's any young guys out there that want a career that's going to be beneficial to them, I actually talked my son into going into, he was working in Central Florida, and I talked him into getting into the union, and he's doing well now with Kone down in Tampa.
Great.
So I think it's a good trade. I enjoy it. If you like fixing things and putting things together, and it's a good path to take.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of satisfaction, a lot of opportunity to just feel good about yourself, make your customers happy, and enjoy what you do.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of people out there that wake up in the morning and don't want to go to work, and
right.
that's a sad way to be.
Yeah.
I wake up every morning. I look forward to going out there. So I'm very fortunate that that I've had this career that I enjoy.
Yeah. Well, and I've talked to many people in the elevator industry that, just don't want to retire, or they, been at it for 50 plus years, and it's like, it's what I'd love to do.
Yeah.
I think that's special. Like you say, there aren't very many industries that people just want to stay and have that kind of community and opportunity to really enjoy it.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
Wonderful. Bob, thank you for your time today. It's been good talking to you.
It's been my pleasure. I appreciate the invite.
Yeah. Wish you the best out there, and stay safe.
Okay. Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for listening to the Elevator Careers Podcast, sponsored by the Allred Group, a leader in elevator industry recruiting. You can check us out online at elevatorcareers.net. Please subscribe, and until next time, stay safe.